Here's the thing. We're swimming in information and starving for wisdom. Your phone pings, your inbox chokes, your feed scrolls forever. You're plugged into everything and connected to nothing. I helped build a lot of these devices. I loved them then, and I love them now. But tools are only as good as the craftsman's discipline. A scalpel in a surgeon's hand heals. The same blade, waved around by a distracted person, cuts the wrong thing. When I was young, I didn't have much, just a curiosity that wouldn't shut up and a stubborn instinct that told me to trust myself. I dropped out of Reed College because I was paying for classes I wasn't learning from. That decision looked foolish. It turns out that leaving those rooms gave me the space to walk, to wander, to sit in on one calligraphy class that made my mind explode with serifs and spacing and the silence between letters. That's what typography is. The art of what you leave out. The negative space is as important as the ink. It's the same in design, and it's the same in thinking. The world will try to convince you that more inputs equal better outputs. More meetings, more tabs, more podcasts, more commentary. But what I learned in my life, and sometimes the hard way, is that breakthroughs don't come from adding more noise. They come from subtracting it until the truth shows up. Silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of attention. It's the frame that makes the picture visible. People assume insight is a lightning bolt. It's not. It's a quietly accumulating charge, built from noticing patterns, isolating essentials, refusing distractions, and listening to the small voice deep inside that says, "This is it." You don't find that voice by scrolling. You find it by stepping away. When we were building Apple, the best ideas often arrived after a long walk. I would leave the building in the middle of the day, no devices, no agenda, just a question. The body moves. The mind loosens. The noise thins out. The signal emerges. That was true when we were small, and it was true when we were one of the biggest companies in the world, because the principle doesn't change with scale. Clarity is clarity. I want to be very direct with you. If you feel overwhelmed by inputs, it's not because the world has too much to say. It's because you haven't designed the silence to filter it. You have a real choice. Most people never exercise it. They spend years learning to consume fast and almost no time learning to think deeply. They believe the answer is out there, on the next page, the next clip, the next opinion. But the most valuable answers are usually inside you, waiting for the right environment to surface. And one more thing, the right environment is quiet. Not forever, not ascetic monk forever. I'm not telling you to abandon the world. I'm telling you to strategically step outside it so you can re-enter with focus and force. Because the goal isn't to be quiet, the goal is to see. Silence is just the tool. If you're overwhelmed with information but starving for clarity, this is your invitation. Put down the noise, pick up your attention. Let's talk about how to think different by using silence on purpose. Connecting the dots, why silence reveals the pattern. You've heard me say this before. You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust the dots will somehow connect in your future. That line wasn't marketing. It was the best description I had for the way insight actually shows up. You do things, you stumble, you learn, you get fired, you build, you love, you lose, and then later you look back and see the architecture. It was there the whole time, but you were too close to the wall to notice the mural. Silence gives you the distance. It's the balcony view of your own life. When I dropped out of college, the world called it reckless. When I walked into that calligraphy class, nobody cared. When I got fired from Apple, some people thought it was the end of my story. In the moment, each dot looked isolated, random, even painful. But quiet reflection connects them. The calligraphy dot wasn't just a hobby. It became the soul of the Max typography and the standard for design attention in software. Getting fired wasn't humiliation. It was a recalibration that led to Next and Pixar, which shaped not only Apple's future platforms, but the way stories are told with pixels. Even the messy dots became lines. Even the lines became meaning. Here's what I discovered. Most of us spend our days looking forward, projecting, predicting, planning. Necessary sometimes. But our deepest learning happens in retrospect, in the silence where we let the truth catch up. You don't have to take a week-long retreat. You just have to create windows where you can observe without reacting. The mind, when it stops bracing against the next notification, starts to arrange the puzzle pieces by itself. It's astonishing how often the pattern emerges once you've removed the compulsion to keep feeding the machine. Design works this way too. People talk a lot about creativity as expression. I think of it as editing, saying no to 1,000 things, removing the non-essential so the essential can breathe. In conversation, pauses do that, they let meaning land. In music, rests do that, they make melody memorable. In business, focus does that, it turns a good product into an insanely great one. Silence is the universal amplifier for what matters. Let me be blunt, if you don't schedule silence, you won't get it. Noise is default. It's baked into your devices, your calendar, your culture. But silence is a decision. When we were designing products, we didn't wait for clarity to visit. We engineered the conditions where it couldn't refuse. We prototyped, we argued, we walked, we stared at the wall until the obvious thing we'd been ignoring walked in and sat at the table. Trust is essential here. Trust that if you step away from the stream, the world won't end, and if it does, you won't fix it with a refresh. Trust that your subconscious is doing more than you give it credit for. Trust that the dots you're collecting, from the books you loved as a kid to the job you lost last month, will add up to something if you give them space to talk to each other. It turns out that silence isn't emptiness. It's the arena where connections form. And the more you honor it, the faster you see what was there all along. The art of strategic silence, focus, death, and the courage to say no. Let me define something clearly. I'm not advocating for silence as an escape. I'm advocating for strategic silence as a weapon. There's a difference. Escaping is running from reality. Strategy is deciding where to point your attention so you can bend reality. Focus isn't choosing what to do. It's choosing what not to do. People think focus is about priorities. It is, but only partly. The real leverage comes from saying no to good ideas so the great one can live. That's brutal. It looks irresponsible from the outside. But the alternative is 1,000 half-built things that never change anything. We used to say at Apple that we're as proud of the things we didn't do as the things we did. Why? Because saying no creates the silence. Your best idea needs to grow. The world won't give you that. Your feeds won't give you that. Even your friends won't give you that. You have to declare it. No, I'm not going to this meeting. No, I'm not opening my phone for the next hour. No, I'm not going to pursue 5 strategies when one pursued with obsession could put a dent in the universe. Now, let's talk about death. People get uncomfortable when I bring it up. That's okay, but listen carefully. Remembering that you're going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. Almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure falls away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your inner voice. Strategic silence is how you hear that voice. You step outside the chorus and listen for the melody only you can hum. It's not navel-gazing, it's alignment. When you're aligned, you make bold decisions without flinching. You ship, you learn. You iterate. You get stronger. And the crazy part? The world starts to listen. Not because you shouted louder, but because you finally spoke from the right place. Here's what I did often. I walked. Not always for fitness, though that's nice. I walked to think. I walked to argue with my own ideas. I walked with people I respected because moving side by side dissolves ego and makes the conversation honest. In motion, your brain processes differently. Friction lowers. Assumptions get questioned. You're less tempted to perform and more open to discover. Let me give you a small but powerful truth. Silence multiplies the signal of your why. If you don't know why you're doing a thing, the noise will push you around like a leaf. If you do know, the same noise becomes weather, sometimes annoying, never decisive. Define the why. Protect it with silence, then act with conviction. If this idea resonates, if you believe in changing the status quo instead of scrolling it, then show it. Subscribe to this channel, because we're building a community of people who think differently, who are brave enough to turn down the volume and turn up the intention. Now, let's get practical. I'm going to give you a simple protocol that can change the way you solve problems. The Walk and Think protocol, 4 steps to deliberate insight. I call it the Walk and Think protocol. It's deceptively simple, which is why most people won't do it. But the ones who do, they create unfair advantages. Here are the 4 steps. 1, define the problem. Before you move a muscle, write your problem as a single sentence, not a paragraph, a sentence. For sharpness. We're losing customers because onboarding is confusing. I can't focus long enough to finish my draft. I'm building features nobody uses. If you can't compress the problem, you don't understand it. Don't worry if it's imperfect. You can refine, but start crisp. Then ask, what would have to be true for this problem to be solved? List no more than 3 conditions. That's your compass. 2, disconnect completely. Airplane mode. Watch off. Laptop closed. If you can, leave the devices behind. The point is not to prove discipline. It's to eliminate interference. Silence isn't only auditory, it's cognitive. Cutting the tether to inputs is how you clear. Bandwidth. Tell people you'll be gone for an hour. The world will survive. If you're worried you'll forget an idea, bring a small note card and a pen. Not a notebook thick enough to hide in. 1 card. Constraints create quality. 3, walk without input. 15 to 60 minutes. Outside if possible. No music, no podcast, no call. Let your gait find a rhythm. Keep your eyes dynamic. Look near and far. Ask the problem out loud. What's the essence here? If I had to solve this today with the simplest possible move, what would it be? What am I pretending not to know? What would this look like if it were easy? Hold the questions lightly. You're not interrogating, you're inviting. Something will bubble up. It might be a small clarity, a phrase that captures the real issue, an assumption you've never tested, a piece that doesn't belong. Great. Don't force a full solution. Let the dust settle. Silence works like a snow globe. It looks empty, but give it. Time and flakes arrange themselves into a pattern. 4, capture the insight. When the walk ends, write the top 2 or 3 insights on your note card. Not 10, not a working document, 2 or 3. Then translate at least 1 into a decision. It could be a micro decision. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., we will kill feature X. Or I'll test 2-step onboarding with 5 users this afternoon. Or I'll write 500 words without editing. Decision equals momentum. Momentum produces data. Data clarifies direction. Keep the note card visible on your desk until you've acted. Then archive it somewhere you can review weekly to connect the dots. A few details matter. Walk at a pace where your breathing is steady. If your mind races, slow down. If it wanders, that's fine. Just shepherd it gently back to the problem. The mind is a restless dog. Walking is the leash. Don't turn your walk into punishment. It's not penance. It's practice. With repetition, you'll feel the protocol. Kick in faster. The gap between noise and insight will shrink. You'll build a reflex for clarity. When I use this with teams, the real breakthrough wasn't the idea we found, it was the permission to find it without the theater of a meeting. Remove the table, the laptops, the slides, the performative updates. Replace them with forward motion and honest questions. You'd be amazed how many unsolvable problems dissolve when you step outside the building and let the mind stretch its legs. One more nuance. Sometimes the best insight you capture is not a clever solution, but a courageous subtraction. The product is bloated, the plan is a hedge, the goal belongs to someone else's expectations. Good. Say no. Clarity is not always additive. Often it's subtractive. The Walk and Think protocol reveals what should remain and what should go. Case study quiet walks with Jony from iMac to iPhone. Let me pull back the curtain on something. Some of the most important decisions in industry Apple's history were made while walking restless, focused, sometimes heated, often quiet. I walked a lot with Jony 𝐒𝐢𝐥𝐞𝐧𝐜. You know him for industrial design, for the elegance and restraint you held in your hands. What you might not know is how much of that came from the simple discipline of stepping outside to think without interference. We'd leave the office and circle the neighborhood, sometimes looping the same streets over and over. No headphones, no entourage, just the problem. We'd carry a sketch, or sometimes only a feeling that something was wrong. Maybe the product had too many seams. Maybe the mechanism worked, but the soul was missing. We'd talk, then go quiet. The quiet wasn't awkward, it was the canvas. When we worked on the iMac, we needed to reintroduce Apple to the world with honesty and delight. The industry had made computers' gray boxes powerful, sure, but lifeless. We asked a simple question on those walks. What if a computer felt like a friend, not a machine? Not sentimental, just approachable. That's where translucency wasn't a gimmick, it was an invitation. You could see the honesty of the object. The handle on top wasn't an ornament. It said, go ahead, touch me, move me, I belong with you. Those decisions weren't hammered out in a conference room. They emerged from walking until our sense of right aligned. Then came the iPod. The market was full of clunky players and compromise. Our question was brutal. What does music want? Not the engineers, not the marketers' music. Music wants immediacy, intimacy, flow. We walked and tested and threw things out. The click wheel wasn't just a control, it was a conversation with your library. Spin, click, go. White wasn't sterile, it was a blank page for your songs to write themselves on. Those choices were subtractive. We said no to 1,000 features so your thumb could find what your heart wanted in seconds. Much of that clarity arrived in the long stretches of clarity. Silence between our words, when the mind finally stopped defending old ideas and noticed the obvious new one. And the iPhone people forget how audacious that was. A phone, an iPod, and an internet communicator in one device. There was no template. Our walks then were full of questions that sounded dumb to other people. Why do we need buttons? What if the screen is the only thing? What's the minimum? Could the phone be so simple that you forget the technology and just live in your photos, your songs, your conversations? We pushed and we paused. In the quiet, the fear shrank. The shape revealed itself, a slab, a single button, multi-touch, that felt like reading your mind. When we got it right, it wasn't because we were the loudest in the room. It was because we were the quietest on the sidewalk. We also used those walks to wrestle with integrity. Jony and I believed that the inside of a product should be as beautiful as the outside, not because customers would see it, but because we would know. That's the kind of standard you only commit to when your inner voice is louder than the market's demands. Silence nurtures that voice. It tells you, build the thing you're proud of, even if nobody claps for the parts they'll never see. Because integrity compounds. It shows up where customers do see it, in the way the device feels the first time they pick it up, in the way the interface respects their time, in the way the product says, I was made with care. People imagine breakthrough conversations as fireworks. Often they were a few sentences followed by a long, wordless stretch where our feet kept time and the idea settled into place. We'd return to the studio not with a pitch but with conviction. From there, the team could do the hard work because the direction was true. That's the power of strategic silence. It lets you hear the signal of this is it and gives you the courage to act on it. The action plan build your advantage this week. I've talked about philosophy and told you stories. Now I want you to build the habit this week, not next quarter, not after you reorganize your life, right now. Here's the plan. Schedule 3 30-minute no-device walks this week to work on your single biggest challenge. Not 3 different problems, 1 problem. You will be amazed what happens when you bring sustained, quiet attention to a single question. Here's how to do it. Pick the problem today. Write it as a sentence. Tape it to your monitor. Read it out loud. If it feels vague, make it smaller. If it feels too small, make it sharper. Your goal is not world peace. Your goal is fix the onboarding that loses 40% of users in step 2, or redesign my morning so I write 500 words before opening email, or simplify the product tiers so customers can choose without anxiety. Precision beats scope. Book the walks on your calendar, 30 minutes each. Put them at times when you'd normally be lured into a meeting that doesn't matter. Early morning is great, late afternoon can be great too. Guard them, treat them like a meeting with your best customer, because they are your future self. Go alone. Leave your phone behind or on airplane mode if you must carry it. No music, no podcasts, no just this one call. This is not multitasking, it's unitasking. The task is thinking. Use the walk and think protocol. Ask the problem. Let it breathe. Notice what comes up. If your mind drifts to lunch, fine, bring it back gently. You're teaching your attention to come when called. That skill is priceless. Capture 2 or 3 insights at the end on a single note card. Choose one decision to act on the same day, even if it's small, especially if it's small. Momentum matters more than drama. Review after the 3rd walk. Lay out the 3 note cards. Ask what pattern emerges. That's connecting the dots. Is there a truth you kept circling but wouldn't admit? Write it down. Decide on. The next move. Execute within 24 hours. Ship something, even if it's a test. A few guardrails so you don't fool yourself. If you miss a walk, don't wallow. Do it the next day. If you come back with 10 ideas and 0 decisions, you didn't finish the protocol. Go again. If your insights feel obvious, good. Truth usually feels obvious once you stop arguing with it. If you feel resistance, that's a sign you're near something that matters. Keep walking. Build this into your culture. If you lead a team, encourage walking one-on-ones. Replace a status meeting with a thinking walk. Make silence part of your operating system, not an afterthought. When you institutionalize quiet, you institutionalize clarity. Your competitors will still be checking their dashboards while you're making the decision they'll be forced to respond to next quarter. Let me leave you with a principle I came back to again and again. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Hunger is the willingness to keep asking, what's next, what's better, what's simpler. Foolishness is the courage to try, to be misunderstood, to walk away from the group chat and listen to a hunch only you can hear. Strategic silence feeds both. It keeps you hungry for signal over noise, and foolish enough to bet on the whisper that becomes a roar once you ship. And one more thing, your competitive advantage will not be found in the feed. It will be forged in the quiet, by a person with the guts to step outside and think. Be that person. Take the walk. Ask the question. Make the decision. Ship the thing. Do it again. The journey doesn't end here. If you're committed to putting a dent in the universe, if you're ready to use silence to think different, subscribe and press the like button to join this movement. Then close this app, schedule your first walk, and go do something wonderful.